And so why don't we, thank you, Chris. Meetings being recorded. And so item number 1, let's do introductions. I see some new faces as well. And so I'll start this off and then just go down the roster here. Brian O with County of Sonoma / Permit Sonoma Comprehensive Planning Manager. And I'll turn this over just in no particular order to City of Roanoke Park. Jeff, I hear you, or I see your lips moving, but no audio.
Oh,
there we go.
Does that work?
That's perfect.
Got to remember to push all the buttons. So anyway, yeah, Jeff Beiswinger, Planning Manager, City of Roanoke Park here.
Thanks, Jeff. City of Santa Rosa.
Good morning. I think there's a couple of us on, but my name's Amy Lyle and I manage our long range team at the city, and I'll pass it over to Jessica.
Morning, everybody. Jessica Jones, Deputy Director for our Planning Division, Santa Rosa.
And of course, this is Nancy Adams, Transportation and Public Works as well from Santa Rosa.
Thanks, Nancy. And moving on to Cloverdale.
Hi, there's a couple of us, but I'm Kevin Thompson, the Assistant City Manager and Community Development Director for Cloverdale. And Rafael Miranda's here also. You want to say something, Ralph? Or...
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Ralph. All right, turning it over to, I don't see Sebastopol, I see Healdsburg.
Hi, I'm Ellen McDowell. I'm the Senior Planner with the City of Healdsburg.
Welcome, Ellen.
Thank you.
Let's see, the Town of Windsor.
Hello, Patrick Streeter with the Town of Windsor.
And Sebastopol.
John Jay, Associate Planner with the City of Sebastopol.
Morning, John. And Katati.
Good morning, everyone. Noah House, CD Director, City of Katati. And it was nice to see some of you in person at the Sonoma State Conference on Saturday.
Nice. There's a big circle on the calendar for APA this year. It's in Anaheim. I know there's a lot of us thinking about Disneyland as part of that trip. Maybe we'll see each other there. I'm going to turn it back over to Chris to do introductions for SCTA and RCPA as well.
Good morning, everyone. Chris Barney, SCTA. I'll go ahead and pass it over to Dana.
Good morning, Dana Turrey with SCTA, and I'll pass it to Suzanne.
Hey, everyone. Suzanne Smith, Executive Director, SCTA and RCPA. Tanya.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Tanya, and I'm the Director of Climate Programs for the RCPA, and I'll hand off to BC.
Good morning, everyone. This is BC Caps with RCPA. It was also good to see some people in person this weekend. And I think the last one, I'll pass it over to Drew.
Good morning, Drew Nichols, SCTA, RCPA, and I'll pass over to Ross.
Good morning, Ross Clendenin, SCTA, RCPA, Marketing and Communications. And I'll pass it to Shauna.
Morning, Shauna Gaz, SCTA.
All right. Did we miss anyone?
David, pass it to David.
Hey, good morning, Dave Ripper at SCTA.
All right, we've got the whole team here. Welcome. And then just to close out the county family here, I'll turn it over to Barbara for some introductions.
Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be here with you. I'm Barbara Lee. I'm the Director of Climate Action and Resiliency in the County of Sonoma Administrator's Office. And I have Anna Yip with me, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name's Anna. I am with the County of Sonoma's Climate Division. I'm an analyst here. Thanks for letting me sit in today.
All right, welcome Anna and Barbara, and I'll turn it over to SMART to turn it over after their introduction to ABAG MTC.
Good morning, Emily Betts, Principal Planner with SMART.
Hello, Ada Chan with ABAG MTC,
And I'm with the Housing and Local Planning team, but I'm also the Sonoma County Liaison. And hand it over to James.
Hi, everyone. James Choe with MPC ABEC.
All right, welcome, James. Okay. Well, that looks like that buttons up all the introductions. Big crew today. Lots to cover on the agenda. So thank you all for being here. Item number 2, administrative. If staff has taken a look at the meeting notes for the 16th of June, we have an opportunity to approve those minutes. Has anyone had a chance to take a look at those? If not, we could save that for a different day. All right, well, let's save it for another day. And also welcome to City of Petaluma, Heather Hines as well. Welcome. All right, and then do we have, for item number 2B, adoption of the agenda. So thank you, Chris, for sending that out. We have, again, a packed agenda. Is there any items that the members would like added, questions or things for upcoming meetings? This is a chance to raise any questions. All right, looks like perfect agenda. Okay. All right, item number 3, regional transportation initiatives. This will be a 2-part discussion led by James Choe of MTC. So I will turn it over to James.
Great, thank you. So I do believe I came a month ago to mention a couple of at least one of our programs that I announced. But I'm here to talk about in more depth a program around parking management, an opportunity right now that's open. And then can also talk a little bit about the opportunity that we just closed on transportation electrification. So really briefly, what I can do is, let me share a few slides with the group. This comes from a larger presentation that I did on an information meeting about our parking management grant program. I'm going to go through these relatively quickly, but just to give you a sense of what's in the program. And if you have any questions, there should be plenty of time. And then I can touch briefly on the transportation electrification program. So let me pull this up if I can. And can folks see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Great. So this is the local parking management grant program. This comes same with the previous program that I spoke about, but it comes from Plan Bay Area 2050 and specifically trying to meet our greenhouse gas reduction targets. And part of our programs include the climate program, which is part of what I manage, and it's implementing strategies to reduce VMT and driving demand. And so this program is specifically around reducing VMT and driving demand through parking management strategies. Also with the plan, there's goals around advancing equity, health, safety, congestion, affordability, and other regional goals. This is just to mention that we have been in the space of parking, supporting parking initiatives, as this is largely a local matter. So we've provided a lot of assistance around guidance. We last year released a parking policy playbook, which is just information around parking policies that can advance and meet these regional goals, whether it's around development strategies, policies, and then also around parking management. And so listed here at the bottom, we've offered grants around both planning for parking, but then implementation, and that's what this is focused on. And so first of all, I want to mention that there's still this guidance is still being shaped and improved by our commission. But what I'm going to be presenting on is essentially the structure, what we expect the structure of this grant program to be. And these will be local assistance grants to implement parking management strategies and programs. Again, to manage parking and driving demand to reduce GHG and address other regional issues. And what we're also always looking for are solutions that can scale or replicate across the region, so that these are not necessarily just one-off local projects, but can sort of demonstrate or expand to other parts of the jurisdiction or across the region. And this is just to give a sort of array of the types of projects that might fit under this very broad umbrella of parking management. Just to give you a sense of the variety, but these are not necessarily all projects that would be eligible depending on the funding program, or might be programs that might be of interest to you. But just to give you a sense and think about parking management pretty broadly. So it could be in implementing shared parking facilities or setting up an enterprise program for parking improvements or parking and transportation improvements. Can implement a zone for RPP program or metering. It could be in purchasing and installing sensors or meters or other equipment to manage your parking more dynamically. It could be to implement programs that are around more managing the space at your curbs. And it doesn't have to be around, it may not be to actually implement parking, but other uses at that curb space, because we know now that there's increasing demand for uses at the curb. It could be for purchasing and using software or services that help you manage parking or, again, that curb space. And then enforcement might be purchasing equipment to help enforce at the curb or your parking facilities, or administering a program that provides alternatives to driving and parking. Really briefly, that the eligibility that we anticipate, it's restricted to public agencies who are able to receive federal funds. And so cities, counties, CTAs all fit under that. Our minimum requirement at the moment is must be serving a PDA or TRA, a transit-rich area or priority development area. It doesn't necessarily have to be within the boundary of a PDA or completely within the boundary of a PDA or TRA. As we know, some of the parking management strategies might be around addressing spillover concerns. And then we have a list of desired qualifications that align with our goals, which is around linking to Plan B Area 2050, or that the project is already identified in some parking management plan to demonstrate that there is a sort of larger strategy or goal associated with the project that you're proposing. Links to TDM or other providing other mobility options, advancing equity, evidence of readiness and support, and then again demonstrating replicability or scalability. So this is again all anticipated, but we're envisioning something around 9 million total for the grants in this round, with grant amounts ranging from 250,000 to 1.5 million. And then a minimum match that's all set by anticipated federal funding sources, which is 11.47% of the total project amount, with obligation of the funds needing to happen essentially in almost like a year and a half. We do anticipate federal funding sources, either CMAQ or STP funds. And then again, if you're awarded funding, you have to work through Caltrans local assistance for approval of the project. So this is probably the most important part for now. It's that we're in this stage one of getting letters of interest. If you're interested in seeking funding, potential funding through this program, you have to submit a form, the LOI. It's an online form through SurveyMonkey where you submit basic information about the project. And then we'll review those, screen those, and then we'll be inviting some or all of the project sponsors to submit a detailed application where you're submitting scopes of work, schedule, budget, a lot more sort of detail around the project. And then the schedule, and then just the key point on this for now is that the LOI right now is open for a little less than another month. So September 14th, it closes. And again, we'll take those and review those and then be inviting folks to the second round later in the fall. And then we anticipate hopefully by the beginning of next year, if everything sort of goes as planned, to approve grant awards, recommend and approve grant awards by the beginning of next year. So I'll drop some links to some of the key links for the program in the chat, but the main thing will be, you can find everything on the main program website, but I'll drop links to some other specific sites. So I'll stop there, and then if there are any questions, happy to take some.
All right, thank you, James. And then if it's not part of the agenda, let me just make sure it's in there. If you could share those slides, just with the key dates.
Yes, yeah, I can.
Members interested.
I'll send a copy of the slides. Yeah, I can do that.
Thanks, James.
Again, all that information and more is on the website that I'll share a link to.
Perfect. And then part of that intro, did you cover the status of the MTC EV program?
No, so I'll just mention briefly on that we closed that collection of project ideas earlier in the month, and we are in the process of going through them. Sonoma County was well represented in the submissions, so thank you for those of you who submitted ideas. What we'll be doing is we'll be going through, again, I'm not sure if you remember, but the idea behind that LOI was to, since we're relatively new in this transportation electrification space, we're using it to figure out a set of programs or set of programs that we want to offer to support what we're seeing as needs from that call for project ideas. And we do anticipate that part of it will be offering direct grants to local governments. And so once that, if that program comes out, we'll announce that and sort of describe the application process for that. But the information we've gotten is really helpful. It covers a wide range of interests, not just charging infrastructure, but other types of programs.
Great. All right. Lots of exciting opportunities coming out of the region. So thank you. Thanks, James.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
All right, item number 4, active transportation, countywide active transportation plan discussion to be led by Dana. So I'll turn it over to Dana.
Thanks, Brian, and good morning, everyone. So the SCTA is embarking on a countywide active transportation plan, which is effectively an update of our last countywide bicycle and pedestrian master plan, which was adopted in 2014. This is a regional approach where the countywide plan acts as an umbrella for all of the local jurisdiction plans. So with this process, we will be updating both the countywide plan as well as several local jurisdiction plans. We received a grant from Caltrans, the Sustainable Communities Transportation Planning Grant, and we expect to start work on this when the funding is available in November. So we have been talking with the Countywide Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee as well as the technical advisory committee about this, and haven't had a chance to talk with the planning advisory committee yet. So this will be overseen by the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, but we will be bringing periodic updates to the PAC and to keep you in knowledge of our process on this. So kind of just generally, we'll be revisiting vision and goals to make sure they align with other local and regional plans and policies, as it has been some time since we have developed a countywide plan. We'll be updating existing conditions with new data, tools, policies, plans, and supportive programs. We will be conducting outreach and engagement and doing a low level of traffic stress bicycle network and gap analysis, which will be new for the countywide plan. We will be incorporating goals and data from the Vision Zero action plan, and really looking at regional routes and regional wayfinding, and kind of for seamless transition across jurisdictional boundaries. We'll also, of course, be identifying pedestrian needs and improvements, and updating proposed projects and programs. So let's see, with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, but really just wanted to make sure that you all are aware that we are working on this plan.
Noah?
Thanks, Dana. You mentioned that you would be updating some of the local jurisdiction plans. We in Cotati have been really struggling to get to our bike and ped master plan update, and we're really excited to hear that you all are doing this. I think we tag teamed on the last effort, and we're definitely interested in doing as much collaborating as we can on this effort. So can you elaborate on any opportunities that we have for that?
Yes, thanks, Noah. And I have talked with JP a bit about involving Cotati, and we will certainly include Cotati in the scope of work for our RFP as getting a local jurisdiction plan update. So we plan to use the same consultant for both the countywide plan and the local jurisdiction plans that we're updating.
Okay, excellent. And we have some funding committed in our budget this year. So maybe I'll coordinate with JP and you on how we can best support and kind of move together.
Great, thanks.
Hey, this is David here. Can you hear me okay? With the city of Sonoma.
Hey, David.
Hey, good morning. Hey, thank you. Following up with Noah's comment. Great question, Noah. So when you said the word umbrella, I kind of got interested. Can you help us understand? So for example, this plan will include Cotati, obviously, and you'll look toward the other jurisdictions, but how do we use as a local agency what it is that you've done to blend in or dovetail into what we're doing? Because it sounds like the word umbrella was used, and so I'm kind of hoping that there's something that we can either take a plug out of something for what you're doing under that umbrella, and then just is it something that we can just take a section or a chapter and say, here's how we can add this to our own ATP? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the countywide plan will kind of include an overview of existing conditions. We'll be working with the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee on developing goals and policies, and working with the staff at all jurisdictions within the county, whether or not they are actually developing a local jurisdiction plan. And then all of the local jurisdiction plans that are being developed through this process will be under that umbrella, as well as other local jurisdiction plans that have either been recently adopted, or there are a couple local jurisdictions that are currently working on their active transportation plan. So those will also be incorporated under that umbrella of the countywide plan. Essentially, we have our current plan has a countywide project list and countywide map. And so all projects that have been adopted either through this process or through a separate process will be in that countywide project list.
Thank you for that. Should I have my staff reach out to you, or do we wait for something for your outreach to say, okay, here's the next step in the process? I don't want to overload you with my staff and 9 other people calling you, or is that what you hope for?
Yeah, so I have, as we went through the grant application, I did talk with your staff about an interest in updating being involved in an update for the Sonoma local plan. And we will be working through the CVPAC to kind of formalize the process with that. So your staff does generally attend those meetings, and that's where we'll be working through that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dana. Nancy.
Yeah, Dana, just I'm very glad that you're going to incorporate the Vision Zero action plan into your efforts. So super excited to see that as a new element. And I don't know, I think I mentioned this maybe at the last TAC meeting, but I don't know if I mentioned it here with this group that Santa Rosa did, the council did adopt the Vision Zero action plan developed by your agency and the health department. So, and we're going to be incorporating some policies into the general plan update that Amy Lyle is working on. So just really glad that we're weaving together all these policy documents with Vision Zero. So thanks.
Thank you, Nancy. All right, so it sounds like more to come, and perhaps maybe Dana as a follow-up, if you can start to get a sense of timing, and I imagine this goes to the SCTA board ultimately, right, for approval, and just how our members fit into that, whether it's supporting the outreach and engagement or just technical engagement on our part, we'd be happy to do so.
Great, thank you. Yeah, let's plan on bringing an update once we kick off the project with our consultant team, probably, I would say by early 2023.
Perfect. Thank you. And I should know this, and I'll follow up with our team. I just did a quick Google on County of Sonoma's. Looks like we had a 2010, and so I don't know if we're part of that local tiering, but if not, I will check in.
Yes, I have talked with county staff about being involved in that. So.
Great. Thanks, Dana.
Mm-hmm.
All right, item number 5, RCPA discussion on climate action. We have 2 items. This item will be led by County's Barbara Lee on green corridors.
All right, can I share my screen?
You should.
Yes, you should be able to.
Okay, and let's get this so I can go slideshow here. Just too hot to get to it. Sorry about that. Let's see. There we go. That should get me down to here. And from the beginning. Okay. So for some reason, this pixelates a little bit. Not sure why. I am going to try to move quickly through it because we've covered introductions and I know your time is tight. For those of you who aren't familiar with what's been happening at the County of Sonoma around climate action and resiliency, last year the board created a new division in the CAO's office. We have 3 main functional areas. One focused primarily on implementing the climate and resilience vision of the board's strategic plan. The second is the very happy merger with the Energy and Sustainability Division that was in General Services, but is now with Climate Action and Resiliency. And then the last area is water resources. And that's at this point focused mostly on implementing or supporting implementation of the upcoming total maximum daily load standards for the Lower Russian River watershed. And but it also includes general analyst support around water issues, especially water resilience issues. And we have a really awesome team working on it. So just by way of background on where our Green Corridors project comes from, which is what I'm really going to talk to you about, we recently proposed for everyone's review a Sonoma County Climate Resilient Land Strategy. There was a really extensive engagement process with a technical advisory committee and implementation advisory group, and these had government partners, nonprofit partners, and a really rich representation of expertise. We also engaged in tribal consultation as part of the process around tribal input into building resilient in the natural landscape, and met with focus groups and with individuals. And the net result of all of this, and also of integrating a number of other plans and studies that have been done in the county, is a sort of umbrella strategy around how to improve the resilience of our natural and working lands on a landscape watershed system-wide scale. And the strategy has a lot of supporting documentation, and it incorporates blueprints for specific priority projects and maps where those projects will be most effective based on the different ecoregions and land types across the county. And there's also an appendix with funding information. So this document is intended for use by, obviously by the county family, but also by our local government partners, nonprofit partners, tribal partners, and private land managers. So anyone who has decision-making authority over land management and land use also in Sonoma County might find this helpful and be able to target actions and figure out how to fund them. The other thing that's an important foundational piece is the notion of climate justice and climate equity. And this is something that we're really weaving into everything that we're doing in our climate action and resiliency work. And I suspect that you're all familiar with these definitions, but just to make sure we're all on the same page, we talk about climate justice as a desired outcome that recognizes the impacts of climate change, falling most heavily on our under-resourced and underserved residents. It asserts that there's an obligation that rests with those of us who have power and have resources to eliminate the disproportional impacts that affect those of us who do not have power and resources. And it envisions a future where the benefits and opportunities of a green economy are equitably shared by everybody. Climate equity, on the other hand, is an operational approach, and it involves three main components: giving a voice to those who have not historically had a voice, and giving them a seat at the table where decisions are made. It also involves actively seeking to relieve those disproportionate impacts and assuring equitable distribution of benefits. And it is forward-leaning in that it prioritizes creating equitable economic opportunities for those who have not had those opportunities. So as we transition to the green economy, making sure that there is room for everyone to grow and to thrive. And in the Climate Action and Resiliency Division, we've embedded that in the framework that we use not only to evaluate projects from those within the county family that are seeking funding with our Climate Action and Resilience Fund, but also we use it as a guiding framework as we're looking to develop projects. And so the goal here, without going into a lot of detail, is to get as far to the right on the spectrum of community engagement to ownership as we can with our projects, and move away from the early stance of basically ignoring communities that are underserved and under-resourced. It's also our goal to move as high on this center graphic as possible to making a significant improvement in their access to benefits, and that also incorporates addressing and removing those disproportionate impacts. And then lastly, to move as high on this pyramid as possible to significantly incorporate a just transition, just benefits for a future economic opportunity into the projects that we are developing to the extent that we can, which all of which underpins the concept for a project that we are working on right now. This is still in the planning stage and seeking funding. We've got a couple of different funding opportunities that we're pursuing, but the notion is to build green community corridors connecting important green space, priority habitats that are on either sides of the built environment to increase the resilience of that habitat and support adaptation of the species that live in it, while at the same time putting those linked corridors through underserved communities to build towards climate justice, and to use as we go that equity-based community-led development that builds capacity and engagement. So there is also, with the thought for just transition, a job training and small business support component to this project to try to create opportunities for residents in our underserved communities to develop their skills and move towards career opportunities in the green economy that relate to the project itself. So there are important resilience benefits associated with this kind of work. In the communities themselves, there's improved access to green spaces like parks and bikeways, urban farming, roof gardens, landscaped flood control areas. A whole host of different types of green spaces can contribute and be a part of one of these linked corridors. And it has immediate health and welfare benefits, as I know you're aware. But importantly, the process also builds leadership and empowers local decision-making within the act of bringing forward these corridors. There are also important countywide resilience benefits at the landscape and watershed scale. Again, this comes out of our climate resilient land strategy. And by improving the linkages between critical habitats, we are improving the adaptive capacity for the species in those habitats. And they're also, with the way the green spaces are configured, there can be an overall improved rainwater retention that builds the resilience of the land as well. From a hazard mitigation perspective, the green corridors for the communities themselves, provide a reduction in heat island impacts, improve stormwater runoff management and flood risk mitigation, and also depending on how they're created can really improve fire resilience as well. And then at a county-wide scale, we see increased land resilience, mitigating risk of wildfire, and that the improved soil retention of water buffers against drought impacts. Here are just some examples of some of the underlying analysis that was done to help us select where the priority corridors would go. In the center image, the dark blue lines indicate the highest priority tier of corridors, and the lighter blue lines are a second priority tier of corridors. And it's based in part on the Vital Lands Initiative work, looking at population density, the Human Development Index, and other hazard impacts, anticipated hazard impacts, and other factors as well. So the initial scope of the project we're working on right now is to build capacity and community power in 4 priority areas. To plan green corridors that meet community economic, social, and environmental resilience priorities, to expand and create green spaces in underserved communities for increased access and connectivity to communities, wildlife, and ecosystems, and to enhance Sonoma County's ability to adapt to extreme heat and flooding and wildfire while enhancing biodiversity. The initial scope includes a couple of basic structures. We, as the county, are acting as a fiscal agent in this process and trying to enable NGO and community led activities. And so we have a managing partner with the Greenbelt Alliance. But we have a number of other local NGO partners around the county. The communities themselves will be in a leadership role with mentoring and guidance from the NGOs. And the communities will lead the planning and design and implementation of the green spaces in their communities, with also support from contractors doing some of the technical lifting for them, but under their leadership. We also have a partner in the Sonoma County Ag and Open Space District to provide matching funds at the construction phase of the project, and we're pursuing resources to support this work through several different funding opportunities right now. And the focus of the funding opportunities at this stage is the planning and design and capacity building within the communities. So for planning and design, the main elements of that work include the forming and supporting of community corridor leadership groups. So there will be training and leadership building and mentoring for community members in those leadership groups. As I said, contractor support to help develop an overall plan and design the 4 community corridors. At the implementation, as we move into implementation, we're incorporating a job skills training and small business support component to the project, as I mentioned, and we'll continue with community resource capacity building as they transition into an implementation phase. And then over a longer term, we're trying to put in place some basic support so that the community leadership groups will be sustained and they can follow through with the creation of the community corridors, because as you all know, these things take time, but also so that we then have some really deep leadership developed in these communities so that they can engage with all of us on a host of other important climate and resilience related issues, but also other issues that they identify as being important to their communities. And so what we'll be doing throughout is aligning available public funding, grant funding, match funding to construct the individual green space elements that these community groups lead the design of. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the engagement process, but we've been partnering with Greenbelt Alliance, and we're spending a fair amount of time on scoping out how we're going to do the community engagement work, and really excited to be working with Blanca Escobedo on that. And I'm sure you're all curious about the selection of the 4 priority community areas. And these are the 4 areas that we've settled on. And as you can see, they do transition through incorporated city area. And so we're going to be reaching out to you and your colleagues to further develop this concept, and invite you to be part of it with us, and really looking forward to working with you. So that hopefully went quickly enough, and I will stop sharing my screen and answer questions if you have any. Okay, well, that's easy.
So before, it looks like we have a member of the public, Steve, with his hand up, but let me just hold off and make sure that there's any member questions. So looks like Noah. Go for it.
Hi, Barbara. Thank you for that. Just a comment and a question. So one, I hope you are dovetailing with the bike and ped master plan effort by the county or by RCPA and SCTA. So that's great, because it seems like there's a lot of room for overlap.
Yeah.
And then obviously as they fold in with us, we can implement certain things. And then also a question I had is there a specific ask for cities?
Not at this point, and we're not like asking for money or anything like that. We want you to be aware that we're putting this together. We want you to feel welcomed into the process. We're at early stages right now. But the overall concept here is to help the communities identify how they could chart linked green spaces through their built environment, maximizing what's already there, aligning with what the cities are already planning to do, what the county is already planning to do, where funds are available to support this work, so that it isn't going to be one gigantic park. It's going to be like pearls on a string, small parks to large parks to urban farms, a bikeway to a flood control area, but basically linking all this green space so that there's continuity and we maximize the benefits that the green space can provide.
That sounds wonderful. Thanks, Barbara. All right, Steve, if there's just a quick comment, if not, I'm going to ask to just hold off on public comment until item number 9. But if it's something quick.
Yeah, my question is, are we dealing with school districts, unions? What kind of organizations play into this most actively?
So we're just at the planning stages right now. We haven't formed the community steering committees yet. So there will be an opportunity for example, working with PTAs to loop in the school issue. We will definitely inform them as we get further underway, but we are in the early stages of planning this, and it's, you know, it is a big table. And so people will definitely be able to have their voices be heard, but we really do want the leadership for each of the corridors to come from within the communities that the corridors will go through.
Thanks, Barbara.
Thanks.
Right, Heather.
Hi, Barbara. Thank you for the presentation. I just am thinking in Petaluma, we're working on both our active transportation plan as well as our general plan. So that kind of integration and coordination seems particularly, you know, important to make sure that when we're looking at things in our general plan, where we know what the vision is, or those points where we would connect. So just making sure that line of communication is open, and look forward to working with you.
Yeah, we expect to be reaching out to everyone, you know, the 4 areas where these corridors will likely end up going, so that you can get more comfortable with the concept and understand what's going on and be part of the development moving forward. This is just an initial heads up that we're starting this work.
Thanks, Barbara. All right, let's turn it over to item number 6. And this is a SB 743 implementation vehicle miles traveled discussion. And probably the only person I know that could concisely and effectively cover VMT in 5 minutes. I'll turn it over to Chris.
Before we get to that, I think there's an RCPA update that BC or Tanya.
Oh,
yes, I'll keep it really brief, but I have one slide that I'll share just to go through briefly an update on what we've been working on. These are just highlights of RCPA's work over the last couple of months, and I'll go through them really briefly and happy to take any questions that you all might have. So we did, based on inputs from our board, submit a comment letter to the Air Resources Board with our comments on the draft climate change scoping plan, basically urging the board to develop a new scenario for statewide carbon neutrality by 2030 to align with the local Sonoma County goals. In follow-up to James's comments earlier, we did submit both from RCPA and work with our partners to submit letters of interest for the transportation electrification program, and look forward to hearing feedback and next steps on that. We also put together a pre-proposal for the Strategic Growth Council's Regional Climate Collaboratives program, and we are seeking funding for the really deep community engagement that we'd like to do as part of our mobilization strategy and call to action. So we'll be working with local partners on the next steps for that grant program. BC's been doing a lot of great work on the tree protection ordinances, and working with a grad student to complete an analysis of local ordinances and put together a final report. So we'll be sharing that when that is complete later this fall. BC's also been supporting or working with local jurisdictions as needed on the local bans on construction of new fossil fueling stations, and you'll see a brief update on the status there. And then lastly, BC's been working on our countywide greenhouse gas inventory update for 2020, and we are making doing the final work on that, and plan to present the results to our board in September. So that is what I wanted to share with all of you, and happy to take any questions if you have them. And if not, I'll turn it over to Chris.
Thanks, Tanya. Good morning, everyone. So I just have a few items on SB 743 and VMT to update the group on. Probably the most exciting thing for me on this topic is we're wrapping up the development of our countywide VMT mitigation and reduction calculator project. So Fair and Peers has actually delivered the final draft of that. So I'm just doing a final review of that product and the documentation this week. And then we have our project rollout and demo scheduled for next Thursday at 3 p.m. So the calculator is looking good. It's a pretty beefy tool. There are 32 different mitigation measures included in the tool. So I think there's a lot of good content there. And as part of the project, in addition to the documentation, we've been able to develop a project worksheet that you can use to gather all the information about a project related to VMT estimates, screening, project details that you'll need to actually use the calculator before opening it up. So I think that's going to be pretty helpful to, number one, decide if you need to use the calculator, and then help you kind of work through using the tool. So yeah, after we're planning on getting that posted to our website after the demo next Thursday, and we'll be recording that as well. So if you're not able to make that session, we'll have a recording available. So the only other announcement I wanted to make is that the MDC SB 743 training curriculums about halfway through now. So, or I guess about a third of the way through. So the next session is focused on VMT mitigation. It's scheduled for September 21st at 1:30 p.m. And as part of that, I'll be also providing information on our VMT calculator. So the timing's really great. We'll have our Sonoma County mitigation calculator available for that discussion. And so as part of that training course, there's also a office hours that'll be scheduled after that meeting. So that'll be a chance to engage with the consultant team that's leading those discussions, and I'll be available at the next office hours with the tool on hand as well to answer questions about the tool and help troubleshoot and walk through things. And also happy at any time to answer any questions about the tool, the mitigation, or any other VMT related questions you may have. So happy to answer any questions.
Chris, you said September 28th?
September 21st is the next VMT training session, 1:30 in the afternoon.
And Chris, this is the cohort led by MTC. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's the consultant team that's providing the training is a team from Fair and Peers. So they lead the discussion, provide some training, and then there's time for discussion and some interactive kind of group work along the way as well. And as part of the training, there are a number of documents as well that are being developed that you can adapt for local use as well. Threshold setting documents, different staff reports, memos that you could take to your councils and local boards as well. So in addition to the training courses, there's content that's being developed that should be helpful, as well as everyone's implementing SB 743.
Chris, this is Jeff. Is there going to be kind of future opportunities to tinker with or refine the model as needed?
Certainly, yeah. So we're always tinkering with the travel model. The mitigation calculator, it's a really big, complicated spreadsheet. So, I'll have an unlocked version of the VMT mitigation calculator. So as new research becomes available on what's effective at reducing VMT, we could certainly go and add things to that, either through a new consultant contract or, I could crack open the hood and try and add things as well. One of the issues we're running into with VMT mitigation is a lot of it, there are a lot of good ideas out there, but it's backing it up with research and, quantifiable results. So that's what the tool is based on right now. But as more information becomes available and more research is done, hopefully we'll have a lot more that we could add to the tool in the future. So yeah, that's definitely the intent, to make that a living type tool that, won't have an expiration date for a year or two after it's rolled out. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on what's available and try and keep that as up to date as possible.
Okay. Well, hopefully we don't break it first time out, because we have a big casino expansion coming in that we want to see what we can do with it.
Stress test it.
Anyway.
And then
Yeah,
Chris,
if we break it, we'll try and get it fixed.
Yeah.
So we still have a
Okay.
little bit of time on the Fair and Pierce contract. So that'd be a great test to try and, stress test it right out of the gate. So,
All right, sounds good.
yeah.
And then Chris, my understanding, this is part of the MTC sort of technical, I don't know if Ada is still with us, but it probably applies, that it goes beyond sort of county efforts, right? We're sort of taking some best practices right across the country, if not the globe.
Yeah, they're kind of two parallel efforts, right? Like there's our local calculator development, the mitigation reduction calculator project, which is kind of a collaborative effort for all the jurisdictions here in the county. And then there's the MTC training curriculum, and that's definitely region-wide, and there are sessions happening in every county or groups of counties. So yeah, definitely a lot of information sharing and shared curriculum. The kind of umbrella consulting group that's developing the training, it's all the same training materials are going out to everyone. So hopefully this will help standardize things and yeah, going forward.
Yeah, and I think the MTC effort is really about getting folks to having their own thresholds. And throughout the region, we saw a lot of jurisdictions not maybe hitting a baseline, but not necessarily kind of taking it to a level that was specific enough for them, so that they weren't evaluating project by project. So the goal was to just help jurisdictions get to that level. And it seems like most jurisdictions in Sonoma have participated at some point. Those that already have thresholds or not, but and if you have participated and it is or isn't working, I would love to get feedback. So, offline, please contact me.
Great, thanks, Ada.
There was just one last thing on the region curriculum. There was a discussion last week, and one thing that we'd really like to do is engage legal counsel as well and get get some information on them on implementation and things to kind of consider going forward as well from a legal perspective. So hopefully we'll see something at least touching on that in one of the future sessions.
Great. All right. So moving on to an action item, item number 7, Sonoma County travel model, pending development and permitted projects database. This will also be led by Chris.
Yeah, so this is the kind of annual update, pending development update. So thank you all for working with me to get our database updated. So I think we have maybe a few new folks on the call today. So I'll go ahead and share my screen, but as I'm doing that, just provide a really quick overview on what I'll be talking about today. Let's see. The presentation view
is saying that you've started sharing your screen.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Yeah, Zoom just crashed on me. Sorry about that. Let me get go. All right, sorry about that. Zoom just crashed on me, so I'm back. Let me try this again. All right, can everyone hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I've had a couple Zoom error messages show up. So let me try just sharing my screen, my, not the application, but just from the PDF. Works this time. All right. Hopefully we're okay now.
I think so.
Okay.
I hear you and I can see your screen. I have my PDF open just in case, Chris. Oh. Did we lose him?
Yeah, it looks like let's give it a minute. I don't think any of us can probably jump in here and take over this presentation.
I mean, I could share the PowerPoint, but I wouldn't be able to speak to it. So let me stop sharing Chris's screen while at least he reboots. Let's see where he's at. Okay, see him back.
He's coming back online.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, do you want me to share the slides?
Yeah, that'd be great. I had Zoom crash 3 times. So maybe if you share just from the PDF, that would be good.
Right, this one, correct?
That's it. Okay. Sorry for that delay, everyone, and the technical difficulties. We've been actually at SCTA been tracking pending and permanent development projects in the county for a number of years now. We started this, I believe, back in 2017, and the primary intent back then was to make sure that we had a good handle on short-term development projects so that our travel model forecasts would be accurate and would represent what's actually happening or will shortly be happening in the county. So the process on an annual basis has been, first to get a list of pending residential and non-residential projects, enter them into a database, and then feed those into our travel demand model. So I know most of you are familiar with this process. We've been doing it for a number of years now. But we like to, as we go through the annual update, come back with a report on where things are at and what's happened over the past year. So after that report, we actually feed things back into the travel model. We have an online mapping program as well that provides locations for at least the residential projects as well that can be a resource for you all. And other folks that want to look at pending project locations in Sonoma County. So Drew, can you move to the next slide, please? Thanks. So these are the types of things that we focus on each year as we're updating our list of pending projects. We look at projects that have been completed or that are no longer active projects and remove them from the database. We add new projects as they come online and are proposed. We change project status as they move through the development pipeline, update project characteristics like number of units, square footages, things like that as those change. One thing we added last year was number of affordable residential units. So that is now a part of the database that's available for reporting and feeding into the travel model and for your use as well. And then this last cycle, one thing that I was able to do is take a look at the HCD annual progress report data and check that against our current database and incorporate that into our list of residential projects. So there was a lot of commonality between the HCD data and our local database. The biggest differences were in the unincorporated areas. So I think we were able to capture some additional projects through that data this last year, at least in those areas. So Drew, if you can move to the next slide, please. So here's kind of the timeline or the list of action items on this project for this year. I've actually been able to get review and updates back from everyone except for the County of Sonoma. So still, Brian, working with your team on reviewing those projects and getting those entered into the database. I've compiled the draft summaries, which I'll be going through today. Once I get the final review from the county, I can update our online map. There's actually a link to the map here. A lot of you have probably already used that or seen that, but there is a hyperlink in the agenda if you'd like to go directly to that and pan around and find project detail on residential projects. Then we also take this report to our board and the Citizens Advisory Committee. So we're looking at taking this to the board in October and probably the CAC in September or October as well. And then finally, once I've gone through all this, I integrate the results into our travel model to make sure that our forecasts include all of these pending projects. So next slide, please. Here's a look at what has happened over the last year. And these completed project lists are actually compiled by looking at last year's database update and then removing completed projects as reported by you or your staffs over the last year. So on the top, you can see the number of completed housing units. So we're looking at about 1,500 completed units in the last year. On the non-housing side, things are mostly reported as square footages. So you can see quite a bit of hotel and lodging development, industrial development, and then some commercial and a little bit of office and institutional development as well. Next slide, please. Here's a look at pending residential units in Sonoma County by jurisdiction. So on the table, you can see where we were at last year in relation to this year. So there's a summary of 2021 and 2022. You can see the change there. There are now about 2,700 additional units in the pipeline from last year. So quite a few new projects coming online. On the pie chart on the left, you can see where these units are. So a large proportion, about a third or over a third in Santa Rosa, 20% Rohnert Park, 12% in Petaluma, and the rest in other jurisdictions. Next slide, please. Here you can see a summary of housing units by housing unit type. So you can see that there's definitely a focus on multifamily and ADU units in Sonoma County. About 2/3 of units in the pipeline right now in Sonoma County are multifamily or ADU, about a third single family, and the rest single or senior or group housing units. That's an increase from last year. Over the time that we've been developing this database, there's definitely been a increased emphasis on multifamily housing units. Next slide, please. Here's a look at pending residential development by housing unit type by jurisdiction. So you can see the number of units is the size of the bar, and then the colors show which types of units are pending in each jurisdiction. So the larger jurisdictions have more units in the pipeline. You can see blue or multifamily units. So you can see kind of the distribution by jurisdiction on this chart. Next slide, please. This is just looking at percentages by jurisdiction. This is just another way of looking at the data. And it makes it a little bit easier to see what's going on in some of the smaller jurisdictions where there are fewer units in the development pipeline. So again, so taking Cotati as an example, you can see the bar there is the entire number of units in the pipeline in Cotati. And the colors show the proportion of those types of units. So you can see in Cotati, over 90% of those units are multifamily or ADU with a small proportion of single family units there. So next slide, please. This is looking at project status across the county. You can see that over half of the projects are approved. This is residential units. About a third are under review, some are pre-application, and some are under construction. So this is generally a similar distribution we've seen across the county. So you can see there are a large number of projects that are approved and just need to move into construction and completion. Next slide, please. This is a look at where these are located, at least considering PDAs. So we've seen a growing number of residential unit projects being proposed in PDAs. So you can see almost half of those projects are located in PDAs in Sonoma County, which is pretty significant when you consider the small footprint or land area of PDAs in Sonoma County. So there's definitely a focus there on residential development. Next slide, please. This is a look at non-residential development, job and other related development. This is showing the number of projects in each jurisdiction, so not necessarily the size of the project. And again, it's a proportional bar for each of these jurisdictions. So for example, if we took a look at Sonoma, you can see out of the number of projects, non-residential projects proposed for Sonoma or in the pipeline in Sonoma, a large number of those are orange or in the general commercial category. There may be one or two shopping center projects, hotel projects, and educational projects with the blue at the bottom. So just one way of looking at those projects. And if we move to the next chart, please. This is showing square footages, so the size of projects. So you can see there are a large number of non-residential projects proposed for the unincorporated county. A lot of these are in the airport business area or 8th Street East business park area. So again, the color indicates what type of project, and the size of the bar is indicating the square footages. So you can see kind of a breakdown by jurisdiction there. So let's go to the next slide, please. And then this is looking at non-residential projects and the status here. So a slightly lower percentage of these projects are approved, a lot are under review, with a very small proportion being pre-application projects and about 10% under construction. So this is where we're at right now. The distributions are relatively consistent across years. So, but there has been a move towards multifamily housing development, and quite a few industrial and hotel projects popping up the last couple of years. So that's where we're at right now. I encourage you to take a look at the online map that shows residential projects. I'll get that updated within the next month or so. And if you'd like any custom reports or anything, please let me know. I know I've sent a number of those out already, but if there is a particular way you'd like this information sliced or diced, let me know and I can get that over to you. So with that, Drew, you could stop sharing and be happy to answer any questions or take any comments.
Hey, Chris, David, thank you very much for that. That's excellent work, very helpful. So how do we get you to come to the City of Sonoma Planning Commission and share with us great data? Is that something you'd be, I mean, I know you're probably strapped right now, so it might not be a great thing for you to be able to do to take the show on the road. So would your preference be for us to download, talk to you, and make our own presentations to our commissions if we choose? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd certainly be willing to come and speak, if you think that would be helpful, or help develop some presentation or other materials for your own presentation. So yeah, just reach out and, let me know what would be most helpful, and we can see, if I'm able to be there or, provide as much support as possible. So happy to do either.
Yeah, thanks. No, I mean, that's a lot of great data for us all. And again, thank you for doing that. Yeah, I'll be in touch, Chris, because maybe we could do it by Zoom and we could take the lead and you'd be there for Q&A or something like that. I think a lot of jurisdictions would benefit for something like that. Thank you.
Chris, did you say this is going to the board September, October?
October, yeah. Yeah, so these are all, I marked everything with drafts. So in case there are any final corrections or comments, and yeah, we'd certainly like to hear any final comments from the county before it goes to the board. So there's a little bit of time, but we'll be putting together staff reports and presentation materials for the board in September. So I'll go ahead and reach out and kind of let you know when the final review.
Yeah, I pinged our current planning side just to, so we'll try to get you something before the end of next week.
I would say when reviewing these, thank you everyone for your review, but I would pay particular attention to the bigger projects or projects that may be more, be higher visibility projects that you really want to make sure are reflected in the travel model that's used for EIR work or other planning work. So those are really important that we catch those and they make it into this database and then into the travel model. So
yeah, that's great. Emily.
Thanks. Thanks, Chris. This is really interesting. I'm sorry I missed the beginning of the presentation, but so you're saying there's a map that goes along with this? Is that right?
Yeah, actually.
Okay. So there's GIS version of this data?
There is, yeah, at least on the residential side. I've mapped out the residential pending projects.
Okay.
So there's a link to that, that map in the agenda packet.
Okay,
in the presentation.
All right. I'll look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from SMART's perspective, it's really interesting to see what density changes or what developments may be precipitated over time by having a commuter rail system in the North Bay, right? So that's a question that we're always looking to answer because obviously change takes a long time. And I remember that SCTA did a report with ULI maybe 5 years ago, something like that, that was doing projections of density changes based on having SMART and running. So I guess what I'm wondering is you do this work is it every year or every several years? Every year. Okay. So yeah, it'd be interesting to sort of track changes, and maybe you're doing that. And I'm sorry if I missed the details, but it'd be interesting to see the change year to year to year, especially if you have it geographically mapped for proximity to rail stations and any other high frequency transit.
Yeah, the map and the reports that we have set up right now are really focused on kind of what's going on right now. But as projects are completed, those are all archived. So that is all still available. So we can certainly go back and look at, completed projects, archived projects, and how things have changed over time. And there's a timestamp on that as well. So we know kind of when that project kind of went out of the date, it was dropped from the database, completed, and so that's definitely possible. So I'll try and work some of that into our update for next year.
All right, thanks.
All right, great work. Thanks, Chris. Okay, let's see, where are we? Item number 8, standing discussion. And then I just wanted to note there's probably going to be a number of us that are having to hop off at 10:30 for the collaborative on the housing collaborative effort. And so we may start seeing a couple drop-offs as well. But we always have this opportunity. It's nice to hear from our neighbors just to see what's going on. And so we'll leave that open for as long as we need to. So I'll just open it up to the group.
Brian, this is David. So if you need to hop off, I can stay on this line if you like.
Okay, that'd be great. Thanks, David.
not seeing anybody that wanted to talk. Maybe
Yeah,
they've
maybe.
already bailed. Maybe they've already bailed. I'll just say thank you, Brian, to the county for putting out the specific plan in the EIR for the Sonoma Development Center. I had nothing to do on my vacation, so now I get to be able to go through that. So thank you very much. It's awesome.
Hey, 800 pages if you have the time.
I did count. I did count. But thankfully, the specific plan is the brief part, right? Yeah, so we're currently within that period. I think it's like the end of September, if I remember correct, like the 23rd or something like that. The comments are due. So just as an FYI to anybody that has an interest in that. But no, the main thing I wanted to just mention briefly is our city has our 6th cycle element out for public review, and we used a de novo planning group. They did an excellent job, and looking forward to receiving public comment on that, and obviously ultimately sending it to Paul and his staff to do what they do best. That's all I have, Brian. Thank you.
All right, congratulations, David. And then I'll turn it over to you. But I'll just mention, so this afternoon, you saw it in the RCPA update. Permit Sonoma has taken the tree protection ordinance update for Planning Commission to consider. And then I think the biggest sort of policy item in addition to the draft EIR for SDC is the vacation rental policy. And so the board weighed in on that last month. And so we're basically just turning right back around to Planning Commission, working with our community members to figure out exactly how to put together some regulations and some rezoning in our different areas with high impact on vacation rental permits. And then it looked like Santa Rosa also is also having a good discussion around that as well. And so that's my update, and then I'll turn over to David, and then I will see you all either in a minute or later. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, just going around the globe here, and anybody else would like to share some of the things that are going on?
I can just hop in that we also have our housing element out for our public review, and we're hoping to submit that to HCD in September. So it sounds like we're all on similar schedules with that one. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I just so everyone's aware, the casino is doubling in size, if you haven't heard yet. So they should be dropping a NEPA EIR on us in September. So we're going to be taking a careful look at that. So it's of course outside the city on tribal lands. And what else do I got real quick here? Our downtown, we have some downtown planning efforts going on. And so we've we're running that out of our city manager's office, and we've hired the firm Mole Polyzoides to kind of retool our urban design scheme. And so we might be having some updates to that coming through. And so I'll keep you all updated on that one. And if you want to take a look at what we were saying to the grand jury, we're taking our response letter to the council on Tuesday. So you'll be able to find that on our website on Friday if you all want to take a peek. That's all I got.
Thank you for sharing that. And as you reminded me, our city council approved our responses in Sonoma last night. So those will be shipped up to the chairman of the grand jury the next day. Thank you.
Everybody, I can go next for Santa Rosa. I know there's not a whole lot of us on here anymore, but Jeff, I think we may be taking a look at what you've put together for the grand jury response. We're working on ours right now. I'm not sure when we're going to be heading to council. We're working on a date right now, but anyway, and we have submitted our housing element to HCD. So we're in the 90-day review period right now, hoping for a good response from them. And then just quickly on short-term rentals, our council just acted last week, anyway, just recently, to cap the number of non-hosted short-term rentals within the city to 198, which would cover the number of non-hosted permits that are currently in process. So it would allow us to continue to processing those. And then we're not accepting any new applications at this time. So in the meantime, we're working on kind of the next phase of our ordinance. And I think the hope is to be back to council with that ordinance probably sometime in the spring of 23. So beyond that, just continuing to process projects, continuing to work on our general plan update. Our preferred alternative will be coming out here shortly. And we are starting the process of discussions of potential annexation of areas in South Santa Rosa, along the Moreland area, and then also in Southeast Santa Rosa in an area that we call the 2010 area, which is about 450 acres. So those discussions are just now getting started. So it's a snippet of what we're doing.
Did we lose David?
Hey, David, I think that may be all the local representatives. And Emily, did you have something from SMART? Yeah, so I know David was traveling, so may have hit.
Oh, I'm actually here, Chris.
You're there,
Chris,
okay.
Okay.
I think we're done with the roundtable discussion, and it looks like we're ready to wrap up.
Okay, I'll take your lead. Do we need a motion to close, or are there any other final comments?
There is a public comment, so I guess if we just want to open up for public comment and then adjourn. If there's
Sounds
no
good.
public comment.
Public comment is open. Seeing none, I think, Chris. I can't see
Steve,
you.
I think you're on mute.
Steve,
Steve, I think
you
you're
are
on mute.
muted. Yeah, okay.
Thanks, everybody. Good meeting.
All right, Chris, I think that's concluding open session for the public. Do we need a motion to adjourn?
We do. If we
Look for a
have a
motion.
few people left.
I will make that motion.
Okay.
You might have to make the second too.
Yeah.
All right, I'll make a second. Thank you. Call a vote, Chris.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Yep, you bet.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.